welcome to the other three amigos, Las Damas, your weekly unofficial SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division podcast with Declan McCormack, Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So sit back, put the feet up, because it's toe tap time.
On this week's Toe Tap Las Damas, we look back at Metz. A pundit gets called out as Decky's Vera Pow prediction comes true. We look ahead to Tuesday night in the Aviva. We chat with Shelbourne League legend Rachel Graham about the season so far and next weekend's big game with Shams. And it's also a big weekend for pod bragging rights as Treaty hosts Sligo in the first surprise package derby. Before we begin the pod this week, we would just like to offer our condolences and commiserations to the Healy family on the loss of Kelly. Obviously, Colin is coach of the women's national team. He's also a Cork City legend, and everybody, not just the Toe Tap Towers, but everybody in football in Ireland was devastated on Friday to learn of their loss. So again, we'd just like to wish the whole Healy family the very best going forward. And again, as I said, our commiserations and condolences on the loss of Kelly. Hello and welcome to Toe Tap Las Damas, Season 3, Episode 6, Episode 192 of the full Toe Tap catalogue. We were once an award-winning podcast. We were now on Patreon, patreon.com/Toe Tap finds us. If you could retweet the pod, it is very important to help us grow. And as always, our DMs are always open. Two amigos back this week. One has returned from sunny Spain. John, how was the holiday?
It was very good, actually, apart from missing the City win. But it was lovely. A bit even too hot for my pale skin, but no, we had a great time and nice and relaxing.
Well, now if they don't win again this week, we just want to send you out of the country every weekend between now and the end of the season. See what happens.
Luckily, I'm not superstitious.
And of course, Eileen Ring is always here, seeing as it is her podcast. Eileen, how are things in the Ring household this week?
All good now, can't complain. It was actually, we had good football to watch Friday night for once. Goodish, like as good as it gets for us at the moment, I suppose.
Are you talking about Turner's Cross or Metz with that statement?
I wouldn't entirely talk about good football in Metz now, to be honest.
Thought you were trying to catch me out somehow or another. Right, guys, let's kick into it. We won't start with the senior women's team, though. We will start with the Irish under-19s, who beat Iceland 4-1 and then followed up beating Finland 1-0 to qualify for the finals of the under-19 European Championships to be held in Lithuania this summer from the 14th to the 27th of July. I think that's quite an achievement for this group of players because it's only an 8-team tournament, those finals, and to be one of the best 8 teams in Europe is something that's not to be sniffed at by any means.
No, not at all. It's an incredible achievement, and I think we haven't been to an under-19s final since 2014, was it?
Yeah.
Where they came, and that squad, a huge amount of them have went on to be capped at senior level and have very, very successful careers. But that under-19, to be fair, even if you look at past 19 squads, we've had really strong squads that haven't qualified. So that just goes to show how big an achievement it is. Obviously, look, I know the under-17s went to Iceland in the Euros a couple of years ago as well. But yeah, at this level, it's first since 2014, so it's brilliant. And the squad it's pretty much all players from our league. And it's that a lot of them are going to go on, and they're people we talk about week in, week out, I think, on this podcast. So they'll be very familiar names to any supporters of this league, and you wish them the best of luck now, and hopefully, kind of generates a little bit of buzz again, because I can quite vividly remember that 2014 squad and that tournament. There was actually when they played Holland in the semi-final, they came up against a Dutch side featuring Vivian Miedema, who just caused havoc in the semi-final. They just could not contain her, but to be fair, there's most teams since have failed to contain her as well, so there was no shame in that. But look, if some of those that 19 squad can kick on and have the careers that some of the 2014 squad have, football's in safe hands here, I think.
Yeah, John, as Eileen said there, a lot of those players, even though it's under 19, are almost household names to anybody who would follow and support the league. It's a good it's a good news story for the league as a whole, not just for under-19 football and youth football in this country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we always say, one of the main reasons to start going to League of Ireland games is to see future stars, and straight away you've got girls now. I assume the tournament will be televised over the summer from Lithuania. RT usually pick up those things, to be fair. They did even if it's on the news now, I think they will. But at the same time, you know, a situation where girls who literally are going to be representing Ireland at the European Championships are on your doorstep week in, week out. It's brilliant and great exposure for the league as a whole. Because, like Eileen said, I think I might be wrong, but I think all of them play domestically. Certainly, all the girls that started the game on against Austria, I think it was during the week, all play in the league.
Yeah, Eileen, I mean, like, I'm just looking at the names here, and to be fair, a lot of them we have spoken about at one stage or another over the last 12 months or so, like Leo O'Leary, Joy Ralph, Ellen Dolan, Jess Fitzgerald, Freya Healy came on as a sub. You know, we only spoke of Eve Dawson a couple of weeks ago, Rolo Lusola as well a couple of weeks ago. I mean, as John says, these are players you can go out and see playing in any SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division ground on any given Saturday, and it's only going to cost you €5 or €10 max to go and see them.
Yeah, 100%. And it said it's like there's a great spread of all those players throughout. Like most clubs are represented as well. So as you said, like no matter what game you go to, you're inevitably going to see one of them. And I agree with John. Like I think RT will probably pick them up. You would think, even for the news channel or for the player, because like for the last few years they have been televised. The finals are always like, even to be fair, I watched the qualifiers. So they are there, and like streams are available even for qualifiers of underage games now. But I know, like in the past, Eurosport have had them and things like that. So you would imagine that it's there and it'll be an option for RT, and hopefully that they pick it up. And if they don't pick it up, that someone else does, because they're always really exciting. I had the good fortune a few years ago to go to the under-19 for the semi-finals and the finals, and like that French squad the other night, it was like literally pretty much half of them were playing that under-19s final against Spain. Like you had Bon Mati playing and stuff. So like the quality and what you're seeing of where they progress to then is just, it's great to watch. And I think a lot of time, even in men's underage football, it's a lot more freer, because they don't feel kind of the pressure of media, of too many prying eyes on them. And I think it's freer. Like football is, without that pressure, like it's a very different game, and I think much more enjoyable spectacle for supporters as well.
Okay, here's an unfair question. It's 3 months away. What would you consider success at that tournament?
Winning. No, you just go out and you just give a good account to yourself. That's all you can ever do, is get, like, you need to see what group you get into. But obviously when we were there in 2014, we got out of the group, which was an incredible achievement. If you get out of the group, that's you're punching above your weight, like, because the other nations, they're just ahead of us. They're ahead of us in development, they're ahead of us in population size and everything. So like, as I said, just going out, give a good account to yourself. And look, I think, to be fair to Irish sides, they're never found wanting on that front anyway. But yeah, obviously, if you could emulate what this side in 2014 did, it'd be an incredibly successful tournament, I think.
John, finally, there was, like, we had a grumble ourselves in the WhatsApp group about the squad that was picked to play in these games, etc. So there will be 3 months of a number of players who weren't included this time, who will be looking to break into that squad. So I think it's Dave Connell is the manager of the under-19s, isn't it? I mean, there's a big 3 months ahead for him as well, in terms of getting the squad correct for that championship.
There is. Usually the teams that qualify don't differ too much from the teams that actually travel to the competition. But obviously, you hope it doesn't happen, but there's always the possibility that someone's going to miss out through injury. But so look, there's numerous players within the league that are still eligible under 19s and can step up and well capable of representing their country. And they will, they'll hopefully have the opportunity to impress, and hopefully that'll drive even the standards of all the girls in that age group on across the next couple of months, because they've got something additional to play for now on a week-to-week basis, hopefully.
the tournament runs from the 14th to the 27th of July. There are league games scheduled for the 13th and the 27th of July. So 27th of July one, unless we're in the final, probably won't be an issue. Maybe the games on the 13th might have to be looked at, Eileen, or would you just think those league games will just be played and whoever's in the squad will just miss out on those games?
No, I think they'll call the league games because it's like there's most teams have them and players involved. And like if we're calling senior games for senior internationals, I think for us as a league and the amount of players we have playing, I think that's more important to sacrifice a fixture list there, I think, for the 19s. Plus, I would say if you have X amount involved, you're entitled to the game off as well. So there's that as well. And some teams do have 4 and 5 involved. So probably just makes sense to maybe just knock it. But there's senior fixtures around then as well, I think. So obviously that will have to be looked at. But yeah, I do think if you have 4 or 5 in a squad, the game gets off anyway. So.
Okay, interesting. Speaking of senior fixtures, Ireland went to Metz on Friday night, 1-0 defeat. Look, to be fair, scoreline wise, it's a decent result. I know we didn't win, we didn't get a point. We didn't get hammered either, which was my big fear, to be honest. So, Eileen, we don't like losing, but it's an okay result, is it?
Look, I suppose it's probably... Look, it is. I don't think anybody outside the squad was probably expecting them, like, best case scenario, we're going to get over and get a draw. And when we go one down so early, it's really, really hard from then. It's really hard, like... But I suppose, look, you could see the criticism. We said the criticism would come about how defensive they were. To be honest, for me, I don't really mind us being defensive against better sides. I don't. What annoyed me about how wasteful we were when we did get the ball. It was just one of those nights. And yeah, as I said, we were unlucky at the end. If Kiernan squares that ball, obviously Katie McCabe has a really good chance. Whether she scores or not in her current form, I'm not sure. But he said, we did have those opportunities, but I think Eileen was probably looking at the game saying, if we're really defensively solid here, and you always have that chance from a set piece, or he said that break late on when you have Kiernan's pace on as well. But look, that doesn't happen because we concede a sloppy goal, and I think they'll be disappointed with the goal they concede as well, because that's an area we're normally so strong from. And look, at the end of the day, our goalkeeper was player of the game, and rightfully so, because she was excellent. But I think that kind of tells a story. If the keeper's player of the game, that probably tells you all you need to know. But yeah, look, there was all the negativity around it afterwards that you expected, that we were going to play this free-flowing style of football, and if we were going to go out and try to play like that against France, we were going to be absolutely hockeyed. And Eileen Gleeson's not stupid. She set up to play how she played when we were in Group B, because that's how it needed to be, because the teams were so much poorer. But these teams are in a different league to us, and it's about seeing where we can go against them. And look, England's another huge test on Tuesday night, and I think they'll go out and I think they're going to be just as defensive. Honestly, the thought of Lauren James is terrifying for me on Tuesday night. I'm going to sleep a wink thinking of it.
So, John, Eileen has spoken there of the defending and the sloppy defending, and how Eileen would wanted us to be defensively solid. As you said, you can't defend a set piece that poorly 6 minutes into a game and expect to get away with it, can you?
No, I think that's probably the one thing, like Eileen said, that the squad and Eileen will look back at it and go, that's where we let ourselves down, because they did work really hard, and it's not like us to be that sloppy from set pieces. But at the same time, if Leanne scores that goal late on, or if she squares it to Katie, we're calling it a masterclass by Eileen Gleeson for hanging on until and getting a draw. So yeah, look, I think we were very defensive, but I don't think you really have much choice other than to do that against the teams who are in this group. And like Eileen said, I think Tuesday will be similar against England. They've got too much quality to go try and play like we did against Northern Ireland. It's just levels, so the goal was disappointing, but overall not a terrible result, and probably better than people might have feared.
Yeah, Eileen, we were speaking last week. Obviously, John was away, and I alluded to the whole Vera Pauw thing would be dragged up if we played poorly or were perceived to play poorly. I didn't. I should have guessed, but I didn't at the time that the charge would be led by Alan Cawley. I think it's disappointing to see public figures bringing it up again or leading the charge. I mean, Alan Cawley's around football. He must know that what the whole Vera Pauw stuff goes beyond just football performance, and it goes, deeper than that. And just to see him dog whistling on Twitter was somewhat disappointing, I have to say.
Are you asking me this because John used to do a podcast with him before?
Well, no, I'll ask John as well. I know John's his best buddy.
No, look, I think it is disappointing. I don't understand this obsession we have at the moment with Vera Pauw. I don't get it. She did an incredible job when she was manager. She's now not manager. So let's move on. Like, why are people obsessed with it? Like, I get that they came out afterwards and there was talk we were going to play this new brand of football. And we did play a new brand of football because of the opposition we were playing against. It was lala stuff to think we were ever going to go out against France, England, even Sweden, trying to play the type of football, as John just said, we played against Northern Ireland. Like, that was never going to happen. Like, we were going to go back to tried and tested what works for us, be solid defensively, and hopefully catch them out late on in a break or from set piece, because that's where we've excelled in the past against the better sides. I just, for me, it's disrespectful. Like, I think it's really just disrespectful to Eileen Gleeson and the team she has in there now, because they're there on merit and they have done a very, very good job so far. So why are people so obsessed with Vera Pauw? Like, she's gone. As I said, she did a brilliant job. No one has taken that away from her. And she played, obviously, a lot of the time her football was negative to watch, but it was what needed to be done for the opposition we were playing. And to be fair to her, even for friendly games, she always chose to play against higher level opposition so that when these bigger games came, we knew how to play. But like, yeah, it's strange to me. Like, I don't think there's any need for it. It's a new regime there, new manager, new coaching staff. They're trying new things. They're trying to figure out what works best and just get behind them. Like, because Vera Pauw's not coming back. Like, because some lad on Twitter thinks she's great. It's like, she's not. She's gone. Let's all move on together.
Together, arm in arm. John, as a former member, as Eileen has alluded to, of the Cawley's Call clan, have you anything to say in defence of your former paymaster?
I didn't get paid for that.
You've been paid for this as well.
That's okay, so you don't get paid here either, so that's all right.
I think the whole thing about Vera Pauw, like Eileen said, just draw a line under it and move on. I don't think it helps anyone to be dragging it up. I think Eileen Gleeson approached the game not dissimilarly to the way Vera Pauw would have, but that's what good managers do to try and get the best results they can. So I don't know that you could have expected anything more, against a French side that have the quality they do. And I don't know that many of the people that want to bring Vera Pauw into the conversation now are really, singing from, on high about what we were doing when we were, battering teams with the new style of football.
No, it was like there was no need to go back to the Vera Pauw stuff. And as I said, I thought people would go back to it. And I thought people would go back to it, but to see Alan going back to it, I thought was a little disappointing, to be honest with you. Well, look, we'll leave it there and move on. Guys, that just very quickly takes us into the England game on Tuesday night. You've both alluded to the fact you think it'll be quite defensive again and pretty much a rerun of what we did in France. Any chance we can get a better result, Eileen?
Yeah, it's going to be 1-1 because we're not going to concede a silly goal. And they won't score until after half time. So I think, we're going to get a positive result. Big crowd in the Aviva. That should push them on. And as I said, just be a bit tidier with the ball. Like, if they can, when they do get possession, you need to just not give it away so cheaply, because as I said, against these teams, they're going to punish you. And like, as I said, I do think they'll set up defensively. But look, as I said, we just need to be a little bit better. Maybe I do think we were a bit improved in the second half in France. I just think when they scored so early, I just think kind of I think it threw us, like, and it's really difficult when a goal goes in that early. I know, like, Courtney Brosnan did a Brian Maher, like, she went down so we could get kind of a quick team talk and stuff like that. But I just, still, you're not getting the information you want to get across, like any changes you make. But like, it kind of can't be done that quickly. So yeah, I just think a big crowd behind them could make a big difference for us. I hope.
Do you think there will be any changes to the starting 11, John?
Probably not. I think I can see Eileen setting off with the same team. I would like to see Leanne Kiernan get a bit more time based on what she showed the last day, but I don't think that's really realistic. I think the setup would be largely the same. But yeah, I'd be quite hopeful we can do something. Once we play the game and not the occasion, I do think that might be a factor, it being in the Aviva, potentially with a big crowd. But no, I'm actually bizarrely confident, but then I'm usually a glaff over spilling type of person, when it comes to football.
I wondered, did Leanne Kiernan make it out of the dressing room alive by the time Katie was finished with her? That would be my biggest concern for her.
I was more worried about the pitch in Metz. The poor groundsman having to fit the divot after she hit the ground.
I saw that. There was also a great clip of Katie, and I meant to download it and play it, and I forgot about it, but I throw in a couple of, not long afterwards, where you could hear Katie McCabe still just roaring, Jesus Christ, or whatever it was she was roaring, and it was revealing is probably the word I'd use. Eileen, I'll finish up with you on this. Are you like John? Do you see changes coming, or do you think it'll be pretty much what started against France on Friday night? Yeah, sorry.
I think she might put Leanne Kiernan in for Emily Murphy from the start. I just think Leanne's that out, and it's something a little bit different. I don't know if Emily Murphy, looks a really hard game for her. She hasn't played a lot of international football. I think might do that, but other than that, I think she'll set up like defensively. Like, I had question marks last week over Aoife Mannion that she hadn't played enough football, and she was excellent. She was really good. Anna Patton stepped in really well, as I thought she would, because she plays week in, week out at a really high level. But yeah, I just think maybe Emily Murphy could be the possible change there, because instead I think Leanne's pace is a big out for us, and we're going to need that.
Okay, interesting. You've already said, Eileen, do you think it'll be 1-1? John, give us your super optimistic prediction. So,
yeah, my super optimistic prediction is probably 1-1. I still think a draw is probably as good as we get out of it. But I do think there's a better performance in us than there was against France, and I hope the crowd drives us on. I look, just like to absolutely quote Eileen from like 5 minutes ago, just be tidier on the ball, don't give it up so easily, and we've players that are well capable of doing that. And
tell me, how many people do you think will be there?
I'll go 32,000.
I'm only going to commit to the 5, which is my family, who will be going up on Tuesday. I honestly, I don't know how tickets are going, but yeah, I hope it well breaks the 30 anyway. You don't want to see, especially like I know I've said this a couple of times, but the TV arc is so important to fill for a TV game. So hopefully, at least that there's a good 35. Maybe even tipping a little bit higher. Weather probably is going to play a part in the day as well.
Yeah, the reason I ask is it was noticeable in the last few days that there's been a bigger push on tickets, and that always makes me kind of go, oh, I wonder how this is going, But look, we'll see. There'll be 5 O'Sullivans and some other people there, and we'll see what the final figure is next week. Guys, we'll park it there and move on, because it's time for some of this. So, as might be expected, the weather decimated a lot of the underage games this week. There was no under-19 games, obviously, because of the European Championship qualifiers were on. The under-17s in Group A, Drogheda 1, Bows 4, Shelbourne 4, Finn Harps 1, and Shamrock Rovers 4, Dundalk 0. Group B saw Piemont in Treaty draw 4-all in what must have been an absolute cracker. And in that group then you had DLR and Galway, Sligo and Athlone, Mayo and St. Pat's were all off. In Group C, Cork City and Kerry, as well as Waterford and Bray, they were both off yesterday. But Cove and Wexford finished 2-1 to Wexford. Game was played in Cove, and that game was played on today, Sunday. Anything to pick up on very quickly there, guys? No?
Not really, just the weather played havoc. But I suppose it does show the benefit of, like, even though we had a storm on Saturday, Cove's new AstroTurf pitch allowed them to hold the game today, which, you know, it goes to show, like, that a few more decent AstroTurf pitches around the country could help alleviate what, with climate change, everything else looks like going to be what every spring and is going to be like from here on in, because I don't know how any grass pitch in the country is playable at the moment.
Come on, now, don't turn into Johnny Ward and LOI Central now with all the climate change stuff, for God's sake, you know. So delighted now to be joined by a genuine legend of the women's game in this country. Rachel Graham has 5 league titles, 5 FAI Cups, 4 international caps, and is still a member of this year's Shelbourne squad. Rachel, welcome to the podcast, and thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I think that's the best introduction I've ever had.
We aim to please. That's because we might want you back again before the season is over, you know. So we try and make it as good as we can. Can I ask you, because I want to start by testing out a theory that Eileen has. So can I ask you firstly, straight off the bat, when the fixtures were announced, what's the first fixture you went looking for?
Well, I would always look at the first one, who you have in your first game. And then you tend to look at your last few.
Okay.
Last few games. Was that not the answer you were looking for?
No, I was going to which opposing club is the first one you look for? When are we playing them?
Well, to be honest, it probably would be like the higher teams of like Piemont and Rovers, and I know people are hoping there's a lot of bad blood between us and Rovers, and I think they're just trying to create this narrative between the two clubs. But no, of course, you look at your big games, and I would always look at like your last few games of what your running is to the end of the season. But I would always look at the first game. I think that's the one you kind of all your preseason go towards nearly. So that would be the first one.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, Eileen's theory was that Piemont Shelbourne is still the biggest game in Irish football, and that maybe Rovers are trying to interject themselves into that in a way, and without being controversial. I was just wondering whether, you know, you did say Piemont before you said Rovers, so that might give an indication as to how you guys still see things.
Yeah, well, you'd look at Piemont, like obviously they're the league champions at the minute, so they're the ones that, you know, you're chasing at the moment, so that's obviously a big game, so of course we would look at that one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Declan, stop trying to get me in trouble with Shamrock Rovers, will you?
You do that yourself, because I certainly don't need to help you anyway. There's no... Rachel, can I just ask you about pre-season this year? You know, obviously there was a change in manager. Noel King went, Owen Wearing came in. Was there a difference in pre-season, or was it very similar to what you had done all along? Or as I said, did Owen come in and introduce different ways of doing things this year?
Of course, it's a bit different. Like every manager and every coach does things differently. But look, Noel was brilliant for us. Like we were great success under Noel, so you have to always look back on that. But I think he knows himself. The time came to an end, and like all managers do, you know, everything comes to an end. So the two lads have come in; they've done really well, and sessions have been really good. But look, I always kind of said, you know, the test comes later on in the season when things aren't going well for you, and that's when a manager really, you know, earns his worth within the team and how he handles situations. So the pre-seasons, everyone's out to impress just to get into that first game. So, but look, so far so good. We don't really have any complaints. We put a lot of focus on ourselves and opposition, which we probably would have been lacking a bit in previous years. So a lot more. I suppose it's just a fresher take on things, and sessions have been good. All the information we get going into games is really good. We've had a decent start. I know it's a boring answer, but there's no easy games this year. Everyone's beating everybody and everybody's dropping points. So look, we've drawn 2 and won 1, but in previous years that would have been a disastrous start, but looking at the other results, it's not really.
No, that's true, and I'm going to get to it. I just one more question, and I'll get to how competitive the league might be this year. Just talking about Owen, and like I want to emphasize now, I'm not in any way trying to be disrespectful here, but just from a player's point of view, is there any thought process in pre-season, or because we had Shauna Cook on the pod when it was a Cork City pod towards the end of last year, and we were just talking about the change that was coming because it had been announced that Noel was leaving, and Shauna was very kind of adamant that she was looking for Shelbourne to go outside the league maybe and go to the north or look at different coaches and from different areas who were doing different things. When they promote internally and it's somebody stepping up from the youth, is there any danger that there might be thoughts within the squad of this manager isn't experienced, maybe he may not understand senior players, how the senior games work? Is there any element of doubt, I guess, is what I'm asking, Rachel?
I suppose obviously he's not experienced at a senior level, but I just think you have to give everyone a chance. When we heard he was coming in, I knew him from the underage setup, but I obviously never really worked with him. But I just think you have to be fair. You give everyone a chance. He's had a good playing career, so he's been in and around good coaches and has played football. Suffered with a few injuries, so cut his career short. But look, so far so good. He's great knowledge of the game. So look, I think as manager as well, like half of the battle is managing. It's not actually the coaching and the tactics. It's like managing your squad. So maybe, he obviously hasn't had much experience of that, but look, Pearl usually manages the team anyway. She manages the dressing room. She just has a lot of form, so he doesn't have too tough of a task. But no, look, so far so good. It's been great.
Yeah, and you mentioned it there about how competitive the league seems to be this year. Does it feel like when you're involved and you're in there day-to-day training and week-to-week involved in games and that, does it feel different? Can you sense that it's different? And so much that already we're only 3 games in, every team has points on the board. 8 of the 11 teams have won a game. Of the 3 teams who haven't won a game, Sligo and DLR have only played twice, so they both already had a bye week. So Wexford are actually the only side who have played 3 times and have failed to win. It just feels different from the outside looking in. Is that the sense you get from being involved as well?
Oh, 100%. I think every year it's been getting tighter and tighter and tighter. But this year is definitely, like, I remember years ago, players wouldn't have really left squads or players wouldn't have transferred. And it was like, oh, I want to play with my friends and I like it here. Now I need to go play. I want to move abroad. I want this. So people are being selfish in a good way. But it's just making the league so competitive. Like, previously would have had games that are 5-6-7-0. You won't get them now. You might get the odd one, but you get that in every league. But definitely there's no easy games. There's no real rest players for this game. It's nothing like that at all this year, which is great.
Rachel, just for yourself personally, obviously you've been kind of struggling a bit injury-wise, I think, at the start. Are you kind of nearly good to go now yourself, or...?
Yeah, so my pre-season was kind of start-stop, and then got a scan on my quad, so there was a tear in my quad. So I've been out for the last 4 weeks, missed the start of the season, but I trained for the first time there on Wednesday and all fine. So I'm hoping to get a full week's training this week and then hopefully right then to be in the squad for the Rovers game.
Cool. And the other thing, in relation, I suppose, for Shelbourne in particular, I think you're probably, the best example of where like the men's supporters of the men's team have really kind of started getting behind you. I think, was it that 3-2 win against Peamount in Talca Park, that really kind of end-to-end game, like really started to kick something off you. Do you really feel that as a squad, that support you get?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you're around since the start of the league as well, watching in that. We would have played games in front of probably 50 people and it was all your friends and family. So there was no real fans or whatever. But no, it's been brilliant for us and they've been brilliant for us. But like I said, we used to always call them the men's fans and the men's fans are here. But now we kind of say, look, they're our fans as well. They're coming to see us. But it makes a huge difference when you're coming out into Talca and you see fans and the flags and the chants and the songs. And they travel to away games as well. We've got great support this year. And I know other clubs are doing the same, Bows and similar, and Rovers are similar. So it's great to see all around the league. Crowds are growing, men and women, which is brilliant. But no, it's a much different feel than it was a few years ago. And I think it's for the better.
Yeah, very much so. It's nice to be able to shout abuse at you without not being judged because everyone else is shouting abuse at you as well. Like,
But that's what I'm saying. If you want the good and you want the crowd, you have to take the bad. You have to take the criticism. You have to take
yeah,
whatever comes
absolutely.
your way.
And just for yourself personally, highlight of your career, obviously, like you've had great nights. I know you were playing Bristol in the Champions League and stuff like that, or is it that way you won the league that night? I suppose which taps.
Yeah, look, I always have good memories. I remember the first time we played in the Aviva was just surreal to us. But I think that night we won the league against Wexford, and Peamount had lost against Galway. That's the most emotional and the biggest high that I've ever had in football. Even like thinking back on it now, I get goosebumps even thinking back on it. And even we were watching the game back, and it's the last few minutes, and you're nervous, like, are we going to see it out? And obviously, you did, like, you did. But that night still gives me goosebumps if I think back on it.
Can I just ask, Gary, did you have much hope of Galway beating Peamount that night? I think it caught everyone by surprise on the night itself, and what was it, 5-2 in the end? But like, how was that relayed in real time? How aware were you what was going on in Galway while your game was going on?
So obviously we were playing, and I don't know if we knew Peamount were 2-0 up, and you're like, oh right, that's it done nearly. And then at half time we found out it was 2-2 in their game. So you kind of start to get your hopes up, but you're like, oh, look, Peamount will probably come back. And then I didn't know a thing. And then we had a good crowd there that night, and every now and again there was a big cheer in the crowd. I was like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if Peamount were losing or like Galway equalised or whatever. And then it just kept coming cheers, but I genuinely didn't know. And Pearl turned to me and she said, "We're 10 minutes away from winning the league." So I knew Peamount were losing well. And then I think we conceded to make it 2-1.
Yeah.
So, and it's the only time, like in any match, that I've got nervous in a match. When she said that to me, my legs were like jelly, my stomach was in bits, and then we conceded, and it was like, it was mayhem. But it was the best night of football I've ever had.
Unreal. I do think, from a kind of a neutral's point of view, as I was at that night, that was probably one of the most entertaining nights of football. Going back and forth between the two games, trying to keep up with what was going on, and the fact that was televised, and when you look back how the league was maybe a few years previously, does a night like that, and the fact that there was a kind of a TV audience behind it as well, even push that on that a little bit more?
Oh, definitely. Like, I remember, I think it was the second time we won the league, and we won it in the AUL, and the trophy was on like a little table that was just brought out, and there was nobody there was no fireworks, there was nothing. So it was a bit of like an anticlimax almost, but we didn't care. Like, we knew no different. But when you look back on that night, and it was, I know the trophy was like back and forth between the two venues, and it was obviously dramatic. But like, you have the fireworks and the photos and everything. Like, I don't have any photos of me winning the league the first time, only on someone's phone, that way. So it's brilliant. Yeah. And we were trying to explain to the younger players, like, no, this isn't normal. Like, you're not going to win it like this ever again. So make sure you enjoy it. Yeah. But no, it was so good. It was brilliant.
Just to follow up on that, Rachel, can I ask you, how often do you find yourself and Pearl and Noelle saying to the younger girls, you don't know how lucky you have it, or this wasn't the way it was when we started out? Do you find yourselves continually relaying maybe war stories from the trenches of how it used to be compared to how it is now?
Do you know what? We actually don't. It's not their fault they weren't around at the right time. I think you'll always be around at the wrong time. Like, they'll, 10 years time, they'll be looking, saying, oh, if I had this. So I just think you count your blessings. Like, and I know there's like money coming into the league now, and people are getting paid to play, which is absolutely brilliant. Don't get me wrong. But for me, like, what I've got, like you said, Pearl and Noelle, like, they're my best friends. Like, I've played with them, grown up through it. Like, to me, that's not worth money. So I'm glad that I wasn't around now. I know that might sound silly, but I'm glad I was around when it was, you play for the love of it, you play for your club, you build great friendships. And for me, that's like, I have them for life. They're my friends for life. And we obviously, we were successful and we done well, which helps. But I just think, that for me was the biggest thing that I've taken away from sport. And look, don't get me wrong, there's obviously players now that are making great friendships, but it is more professional, I suppose. And look, it has to go that way. I know that. But now, you have to kind of make sure once they're pulling their weight, they're fine. We wouldn't pull them up other than that.
Can I actually just jump in? Just as you do mention Noelle and Pearl there, one thing that's always been curious about Shells down through the years is the amount of players that I suppose lose to the UK is probably the wrong way to phrase it. But the players have been over and back, and there's always kind of a constant churn in the squads, which is the same for many clubs in Ireland. But how important is it? Like every year, Shells need to seem to do some sort of a rebuild with young players, and having Pearl, Noel, yourself. How important is it to have that kind of core of players who've been there and know the club well, to get those new players settled in? Is because I guess the reason I asked that is because we often talk about this from Cork City's point of view, is kind of that lack of real senior players who've been there, for multiple years to help, set the standards and set what the club expects of you.
Yeah, like that's exactly it. As soon as a new player comes in for pre-season, and look, everybody's welcome, don't get me wrong, but you know straight away, like we're not here to mess about, we're here to win. Our standards are set so high in training, like 5 sides at the end of training, everyone's fuming if they don't win, and that's the thing that they have to buy into. If they want to be part of our squad, they have to buy into this is serious, you give it your all. Every week you try your best to win, and it's fight every week for your spot. Then you fight to keep your spot, and then you're fighting to win. And in fairness, look, everyone who has come in this season has bought into that and knows. And Pearl's obviously the driving force of that, and you can see the way she performs every week, the way she plays. It's everything on the line to win, and she'll do everything for us. So yeah, I think they cop on straight away that this is the feel of the group, and this is the environment. And to be fair, we haven't really had any bad eggs or anything like that. So there's nobody that needs to be pulled up. It's, you're here to work.
You're naming like a whole host of like obviously excellent players there, but who's the best you've played with and who's the best you've played against? That's a really hard question. Now I know.
Yeah, I think Noelle Murray is the most talented player I've ever seen. Like even every training session, she does something where people just go, like, how did you do that? How did you see that? Or everyone just kind of stops and just says, no, I'll just go home, like you're done. But I think she's definitely the most naturally talented player. But I always give Claire Shine a mention as well.
Good woman.
Not just because I'm on this podcast, but she was one of the best. I've never seen anybody take the ball off her. She could hold up, she could run, beat players, finish. She was brilliant. And obviously it's sad that she probably didn't have the career that she could have. But yeah, she was a super player. Hardest player against. If I'm thinking currently, I think Ella Malloy is very difficult. You always think you're going to nick it off, and I end up fouling her. I'd say she's the most foul player that I have fouled, definitely. But yeah, she's really tough to play against. She's a good opponent.
When you're finished coaching or punditry, because you're very good at both, I believe.
Oh, thanks very much. Do you know what? If I'm being very honest, I've tried my hand at coaching, and I'm not sure it is for me. I've done my badges. Now, maybe while I'm still playing, it's hard to commit to it, and I'm kind of like that as a person. I'm in or I'm out. I don't want to be missing sessions for this and that. So, I don't have a real love for it now, if I'm being very honest. But I do love doing the punditry. It's something different, but it's nerve-wracking, but it's really enjoyable. So, if it was something to come up in a career path, I would love to do that, yeah.
Well, if you are on punditry anytime soon with Alan Cawley, will you send Decky? Decky sends his best regards to him because he was reading and spelling him there before you came on.
Yes. Myself and Alan. Just finally, Rachel, big game next Saturday against Shamrock Rovers. What way does this week work for you then in terms of preparation for that game? Is it all about you? Or is there much time spent on the opposition and what they do and what you want to do against them, etc.? Or, as I said, is the vast majority of the time spent on what you guys want to do and how you want to do it?
Well, it's a bit of both, but we'd obviously work our focus more so on us. So we train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Monday we hadn't had a match, so Monday is usually a bit of a lighter session, but this week it won't be. And then Wednesday and then Friday will be the real kind of tactical stuff, and we'll look back on our game from the previous week on Wednesday, look at clips, what went wrong, what went right, and then we look at Rovers and how they play, how they can threaten us, and how we can maybe exploit a few weaknesses. But look, you can do so much prep and you can learn all this, but it's on the day, isn't it? It's who turns up, who plays their best. Obviously the knowledge helps, but you have to, it's easy to watch back clips and do it in a training ground. It's all about the Saturday then, 2:00.
I presume there's no fear amongst any of the Shelbourne squad these days.
No, look, we'll always be confident that we can win a game, and I'm sure there's other squads that think the same, but we would always respect the opponent. But like that, you have to give respect to yourselves as well. If you look around our dressing room, we've some really good players there. So I think we're capable on our day of beating any team. But like I said, you have to, the talk is cheap. You can talk all you want during the week, but it's turning up on a Saturday at 2 o'clock. But I do think if we turn up and we play our best, we are very capable of beating them.
Yeah, and just finally to go back to something you said at the very start, you alluded to the fact. I mean, we all tuned into the two, especially the first game last year, and you alluded to it there, expecting that there might be some bad blood and there might be yellow cards flying and there might be a bit of rough and tumble, and it never worked out that way. When it didn't happen last year, I presume there's absolutely no expectation that it will be that kind of game this year.
Look, it's always going to be a tense game, a heated game, like it is against Peamount. It's a Dublin derby. Of course, it's going to be that way. But I just think people are trying to paint it as like, we hate each other and this and that. But you have to remember, them players left like at the start of January, and we didn't play each other till like, what was it, May or something. So it wasn't as if this was brand new information. We had dealt with it. We dealt with them leaving. We processed it. We replaced them. So it wasn't as if it was, a fresh emotion for us. But of course, like, we want to win every game. Rovers, of course, we want to beat everybody. But obviously, yeah, look, it wasn't nice to see them go, but I just think, life is too short to be holding grudges against people. If it's better for them to go, then go. And obviously we've Jess Gargan back now this year, so I don't know if she might get a few yellows. She might be doing out to get a couple of people, but look, you have to it's football at the end of the day. I know it's rivalries and stuff, but people do what's best for themselves at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And look, just as you alluded to it there, when those players left and they did go, was there a sense of, was it an emotional time around the place? And maybe if that game had come in first or second game of the season, might have played out slightly differently?
Yeah. Well, look, of course, we were sad to see them go. And it was a bit late in the day for us as well, towards the end of pre-season, and it was kind of like, you probably should have told us this a few weeks ago. So Noel had to kind of recruit probably, from elsewhere then, from outside Ireland. So look, yeah, of course you're sad to see them go and you don't want them to leave. But like you said, if people want to go, and me and Pearl said this, look, if they want to go, let them go. If they don't want to be here, then we don't want that type of player in our squad anyway. So look, we said our goodbyes, best of luck, everything, but that's it then. Best of luck with them, but we'll see you on the pitch.
Sounds like a good note to end it on anyway. Listen, Rachel, thanks a million for joining us, and best of luck on Saturday and best of luck for the rest of the season as well.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Rachel.
Just again want to thank Rachel very much for joining us there. Guys, obviously we did extend the same invitation to Shamrock Rovers. They said that the timing wouldn't work. Shrug our shoulders. What can we do? So we didn't get the Shamrock Rovers side of things. Eileen, I'm going to ask you to give the Shamrock Rovers side of things. How do you think they're preparing for this game this week?
Why do you keep trying to get me in trouble with Shamrock Rovers? I think...
No, I wouldn't.
Do you know what now? I think Shamrock Rovers are actually probably going into the game in a good position, in that nobody outside of there expects them to do anything with the way they've started the season. Like, they're still going to be thereabouts at the end of the season. I know, like, it's been really poor start for them, but don't you shake your head at me, Declan McCormack. I don't think they'll be far off. Like, and I think what will probably help them is how good a campaign Joy Ralph has had with the under-19s, like, and obviously Leo Larry's there as well. Aoife Kelly, like, they're going to come back. They're going to be hopping. Like, they're going to be absolutely ready to go. And I think if you leave the rest of the squad kind of feed off that energy and that positivity, I think they'll certainly fancy getting a result. I think it'll be a close game. I still think Shelbourne are lacking that centre forward and that kind of consistent week in, week out goal scorer. And look, Shelbourne are the favourites, and rightly so, but there's not going to be much between them, I think, one way or the other. And as I said, I think with Shamrock Rovers, they're not going to be far off. As I said, despite the poor start, like you heard Rachel say it there, even Shells have drawn 2 games, and in the past that was disastrous, and now it's not because of the way the league is, and that's going to play into Shamrock Rovers' hands as well. So while they have dropped points and they'll be annoyed about that, it's not the end of the world that it might have been in seasons past.
Can I just say, though, that Shelbourne drew away at Athlone, conceding in the 93rd minute. They won away at Piedmont. Like, Rovers have drawn away at DLR and at home with Treaty and at home at Wexford. I think there's a difference in the maybe standard of fixture, in my opinion,
No,
that
and
they have faced.
I do appreciate that, but I'm saying I don't think it's a total write-off of their season, the 3 results, because of the way the league is. Like, they're capable of going and getting a result in Talca Park. That's the thing. I'm just trying to be balanced. We can't be anti-Rovers all the time, Declan.
Not being anti-Rovers in any way, shape or form, and I want to formally put that out there. I am not anti-Shamrock Rovers. I'm just calling it as I see it. So tell me, you said they're capable of getting a result in Talca Park. Will they get a result in Talca Park?
No, 3-1 Shelbourne.
Okay, John, I don't know what to say though, because after that, I don't know. We should probably just move on, I suppose. But anyway, John, go on. How do you see this one going? It's a big game.
Yeah, I think Shelbourne will have too much for them, but I think both teams will score, take it from there. But probably 2-1. I think it will be tight, because as much as Rovers haven't, had a great start to the season, the quality of player they have, they're going to catch someone fairly soon. I think they just have too many good players there. But not this Saturday.
The funny thing is, as I was listening to Eileen, I had 3-1 Shells as well. And as Eileen was going, I was like, she's going to go for a 1-1 here or something. So my 3-1 is going to be out there. And then she throws in the 3-1 as well. So no, mine is completely immaterial. That's the only 2:00 game on Saturday, guys. So we will get to watch that. And then there is 3 games at 5:00. The first of which is Cork City and DLR. Now, we've had this conversation on 3 or 4 occasions already this year. And, Turner's Cross on Friday night. I don't think there's words in the English language to describe how bad the pitch was at the end of the game. It was just hell on earth, like. And I think most people would just presume that this game cannot take place in Turner's Cross, John.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised. I'd argue that the game Friday night probably shouldn't have gone ahead. It was that bad. It was an absolute quagmire come the end of the game. The shed-in penalty area was like you literally puddles that were visible. Sitting water on the pitch in front of the keeper. It would take a miracle to get the game played there next week, I think. And if the MFA turn it around, fair play to them. But that pitch, after the game Friday night, that pitch looked weeks away from hosting a game, to be honest.
Yeah, so what happens then is my next question, because I guess until Cork City are informed one way or the other, I guess they have to work on the assumption that the game's going to be in Turner's Cross. If they're informed that it's not in Turner's Cross, I guess their options are either A, the game is postponed and played at a later date, B, it goes to Bishopstown, or C, it goes to Dublin and they reverse the fixtures and Cork City then played a home game later on in the season when it should have been DLR at home. But neither of those situations are fair to Cork City, Eileen, are they?
No, they're not. And look, I hope the MFA let them know early so that obviously arrangements can be made. In an ideal world, you want to play the game in Cork. You certainly want the game to go ahead. You don't want there to be a big gap, especially the fact that we won our last game. But we're going to be singing the same song the whole time. And the reality is, given the state the pitch was in last Friday night, I could understand why the game isn't going to go ahead there next Saturday. But you have to bear in mind, they told the women they can't play there last season about 10 times when the pitch was perfect. Do you know what I mean? So there's not a hope they're getting in there when the pitch actually is desperate. But I don't know what kind of state Bishopstown is in either. What state is any grass pitch in at the moment? So I think it just becomes, at what point will we be back in there? Will they be back in there at all? Like I said, that goal mount down by the shed, it's not going to be right for a long, long time. Like, and said the men are home every second week there on a Friday night. They're never going to get kicked out of there. Let's call a spade a spade. The fact they let Friday go ahead just shows the men's games are going to go ahead regardless. Do you know? And I don't have any issue with the men's games going ahead, but I would obviously question at what point are our women's team going to be left play in what is their home ground, allegedly.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is, all the paper talk the last couple of days is that the senior international against France in July will be played in Turner's Cross. And I mean, you mentioned it there, that penalty area at the shed end is just, it's an abomination. If there was no rain, it would probably take 6 months to sort that penalty area out, because there's a huge chunk of it that is just earth. And I can't see any way in which that senior international game is played in Turner's Cross on that pitch. I just can't see how it could happen.
No, and to be honest, I'd be pissed off in a way, because obviously I'd love for an international game to be in Turner's Cross. I'd love it. But the disdain that has been shown towards the women's game, like towards our women's team, you can't then reward them by giving them a senior and women's international. Like, that's not, no, like, I just don't understand that logic. Like, this is a ground that literally, like, last year, around this time last year, said, oh, you can't play Wexford there on Saturday on a Tuesday because the weather might be bad. Like, no, I'm sorry, no, like, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Take the pitch away from it, and that it's not going to be right anyway. I just think rewarding somebody who literally, an association that have clearly no time for the women's game, is bananas stuff. But look, it's the FAI, so stranger things have happened.
Well, I think it's not rewarding. I think it's just a process of elimination, because Tala won't be available because of European games. Both Shamrock Rovers and Shelbourne could possibly have European games on those dates. Obviously, John's original suggestion was Thomond Park. There doesn't seem to be any indication that they're willing to go to Thomond Park. I don't think they get the numbers in Thomond Park. So it's kind of process of elimination that, we'll go down to Turner's Cross. But like, I don't know whether UEFA inspect pitches or not, and there's no point in getting into it now because it's not till July. But I'd be stunned if that senior international game was played in Turner's Cross. To be honest, absolutely stunned, just because of the state of the pitch, John.
Yeah, I don't think it will be played in Turner's Cross. I think if they're looking at League of Ireland grounds, it'll probably end up in the RSC or somewhere like that instead at this stage, because that pitch is usually pretty good. But no, I mean, like you said, the shed end goalmouth, that's, especially when you got teams playing there every second week, that's months away from being right. That needs to be dug up, reseeded. Like, I mean, the whole thing has to be, start from scratch. It's effectively a potato field at the moment in front of that goal. Like, so you're not turning that into an international standard pitch in in a couple of months.
Plus, it's local cup final time as well.
Yeah, there's 40 odd games April and May in Turner's Cross. Like, well, maybe not this year, but that's the kind of tick rate they have there.
Yeah, it's incredible. We've spent probably 10 minutes talking about the pitch. We've never mentioned Cork City nor DLR. But look, go on, give us a prediction for this one, Eileen.
3-0 City.
John?
3-1 City. Look, it's the first time in a long time City are going into a game as legitimate, strong favourites, I think. So hopefully we can stand up to that.
Yeah, like, I'm not going as big as you guys, but I was also kind of going 2-0 City. So it's been a long time, as you said, John, since all three of us could.
Sorry, I think a big factor is, will Jess Gleeson be back? I'm not sure what her injury situation is, but if she's still out, I can see that being a big factor.
Right, okay. I'm going to say 2-0 Cork City. I just can't see them not winning this game, to be honest with you. At the same time, Eileen, up west, Galway play Bohs. Bohs coming off the back of what they would consider a poor defeat against us. Galway are the only team in the country who are 3-for-3. Hard to see Galway not winning this one again and going 4-for-4, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I would fancy Galway to win that, but again, I think Bohs defensively are really, really solid, so it'll be hard for Galway. I think if Galway score early, they'll win by a few, because Bohs will have to come out a bit. But if Bows can stay solid, they'll run them pretty close. Like it's said, that Bows side is very, very good, despite me saying they were not good last week. They are, like, and they're well organised. So, but yeah, you think Galway, especially in a home game, and yeah, just with the form they're in, and I think off the back of how they got that win in Sligo, I think that they'll fancy themselves in that game.
Okay, so John, would you be the same opinion? Up west, Galway would be big favourites.
Yeah, I think they will be. I'd expect, based on the start of the season, I'd expect them to maybe not comfortably win, but 2-0 maybe. I can't see them dropping points at home to Bows the way they're playing.
Okay, very good. And another 5 o'clock game in Limerick sees Treaty play Sligo. I noticed Treaty for this game, the men are home on Friday night and the women are at home on Saturday, and it's €15 admission for both games, as in a €15 ticket will get you into both games. The value in that, John, is unbelievable, and I think they're the only club I have seen who have done that kind of a dual ticketing so far this season.
It's brilliant, and I hope it works for them because they've been getting excellent crowds for the men's team so far this season, like well above what they've been getting previous years. Like Treaty are playing really entertaining football at the moment. They've got some fantastic players in. So you kind of hope that works for them, because I think Treaty are one of those teams that every game they've played this season has been really entertaining. I think that'll continue. So if you can get some of those men's fans attending on the Saturday as well and enjoying the experience and the game, it's a brilliant idea. More clubs should be at it, really.
Eileen, I just realised now that this is the big surprise packet derby. But yourself and John put up Treaty as their surprise packet. I'm on Sligo. Big game for the three members of the pod this weekend.
It is, and it'll be a very, very good game. I think, as you said, two sides who, I think Sligo in particular, have had a really difficult start to the season, and they're going to probably mark this game down as, I suppose, one where, not look, because they will have given themselves a chance in the last two games as well, don't get me wrong, but as I suppose this game where they can kind of kick on a bit, whereas Treaty are going to be looking at it off the back of two Shamrock Rovers games where they had two very, very good results that kick on and get another win and get 2 wins in the league. And yeah, brilliant initiative from them with that dual ticket. It's just a really good idea, and it's the best way to grow your crowd. And said, like, Treaty are fun to watch. Like, they're a really, really good side on both sides of the game. Like, they're fun to watch, and they obviously have players that are kind of, seen from everything I hear up in Limerick, like kind of really buying into the city and surrounds and stuff like that, and that will entice people in. That'll like entice fans in the gates, because as in, like, same in Cork here, like if we see somebody that comes in and kind of buys into what the club is about and buys into an area and things, people want to get out and support that. So I'm going to go for my surprise package to win, to beat your surprise package deck.
John, what way do you see it going?
I think it'll be a score draw, actually. I think Sligo, I think you might have a point with your surprise package of Sligo based on the start they've had and the quality teams they've faced. They've been really impressive so far. But I think it's going to be a cracking game regardless of the results, but I'll go with a score draw.
I'm really comfortable here going for a Sligo 6-0 win. Can't say anything. Finally, Peamount travel to Athlone at 7:35. Like, this reeks of another big game. Athlone are going to be buoyant coming off the back of the injury time equaliser against Shelbourne. Peamount won last time out at home to Wexford. Obviously, open mics, great streams, lads in the crowd roaring and shouting all evening. I mean, what more could anybody want at 7:30 on a Saturday night, Eileen?
Yeah, no, as you said, it's another big game in the title race, like, because there are two sides that'll fancy that they're in that mix. Sive Doyle is back for Peamount, which I think is really, really big. But yeah, the way the game ended for Athlone against Shelbourne, I think Athlone will probably be slight favourites even heading into the game, with the way the season has started, and the fact, I know for a fact, like, Peamount hate playing on that pitch because Karen Duggan says it on the Coigig pod all the time. It's a really big pitch, right. And like, I don't think any side likes going down to Athlone because of the pitch. So I think, and look, you could see Shelbourne struggle there as well. So as you said, like, the Athlone stream, it's the best stream around. It really is. It's such a professional product. And as you said, like they have that one fella who'll just like, you're not singing anymore on his own, and it's just all good fun, isn't it? It's good crack. And
Yeah.
look, I think Peamount again, like they obviously had a lot of girls in with that 19 squad. And while we're talking about Athlone as well, congratulations to Larry Ryan, who won a league with Clare yesterday in Gaelic football. So clearly she never takes a day off. So congrats to her as well. But yeah, no, good game. Tune in. If you're going to tune into, you could actually get 3 games now this weekend, and 3 great games, can't you, with the times of them?
You could. I hope Larry Ryan didn't celebrate in the face of any opponent when she won that league.
I hope she did. I don't even know who they beat. Like I just thought to myself, did she ever have a day off? Like Christ. I tweeted her and I asked her. She said no.
It's amazing though, John. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't realise Larry Ryan was playing intercounty GAA, to be honest with you, you know. As Eileen says, that's some going. And obviously the joke I made about celebrating in somebody's face was reference to what happened when Athlone scored and she went to Noelle Murray to say hello. How are you, Noelle? But like it's a fair achievement to be playing at the top level in 2 sports, never mind 1.
It's unbelievable. Anyone that's putting in the time and the commitment and the effort to playing at that level in 2 sports, it's mind-boggling, really. She obviously can't take a day off, I'd say, because even between training and matches, it must be bonkers. And the travel is probably involved as well, in fairness to her, like, you know, and clearly if she's winning titles with Clare as well, it's not affecting her performance in either sport. So, unreal.
What way did you see this one going, John?
I actually think Athlone will win. I think I'm going to go 2-0 Athlone. I don't know. I do think that the Astro, the big pitch, the pace that Athlone have on that side, I think will be a massive factor. I'm kind of, I wouldn't be as confident as you are with your 6-0 for Sligo, Decky, but yeah, 2-0 Athlone.
Eileen, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Athlone. I think Maddie Gibson will be back fit now as well after the week's break as well. So, I think 2-1 Athlone.
Okay, that's 3 of us would be going for an Athlone win. So, because I think
Sorry,
2-1
that's been
Athlone.
destroyed. So yeah,
4-0 Peamount incoming.
Guys, that kind of wraps it up. As Eileen said, you can get 3 games in on Saturday if you want. That Shell Shamrock Rovers game is at 2:00. You've 3 5:00 kickoffs to choose from, and then you have that 7:35 in Athlone to finish off another great Saturday of SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division football. Guys, is there anything we need to say? Anything you want to get off your chest before we wrap it all up?
And if people want to warm up for that, on RT1 tomorrow night at 8, there's that show that followed Peamount, Shelbourne and Galway last season. It's going to be on for a couple of weeks. I don't know what it's actually called, but I'm calling it Keeping Up with Karen because Karen Duggan features heavily. She's one of the players they follow. So regardless of what the proper name is, it's Keeping Up with Karen. And it's 8:00 on RT1. I think it'll be really good. Now, I do think a lot of it's in Irish, but it's subtitled for stupid people like me. But I think it follows 3 or 4 players from each side, and it looks to be really, really good. Like in dressing rooms before games, like for team talks and stuff like that. It looks like it'll be good. And again, it's going to put more eyes in the league, and that's what we want to see.
Very much so, because 8:00 on a Monday night, John, is Jesus primetime viewing, even if it is RTE.
No, I'm really looking forward to it, actually. I think it's going to be very good. And look, one of the things you have to do to grow the game is I know Karen would have a profile from punditry, and obviously people within the league are very aware of her. But I think putting the players in front of a different audience and making the stars and, you know, kind of showing what they put in as well, which is no different to what anyone puts in the men's side of football here, you know, helps build the profile of players, clubs, and ultimately the league. I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm really looking forward to it as well.
Absolutely. John just reminded me of something there, Eileen, and this will be the very last thing we'll cover, and you're going to have the last word of it, but Karen and punditry, and yet she wasn't on the punditry for the game in France on Friday night. And that pissed one of the three of us off very, very much, didn't it, Eileen?
I would hope it pissed the three of us off very much.
Yeah,
But yeah, look, I
actually.
presume she was just busy because, to be fair, I think she is their number one choice of pundit, with Rihanna number 2. But obviously, maybe Karen was unavailable for whatever reason, so they had to sub in with another pundit who, yeah, fair play to them. And I'd say no
Hopefully it
more
was
about
Karen's choice anyway, yeah.
that. I would think it is. I would imagine she'll be
Yeah.
back for the game of the Aviva. Declan, I'm not going to be bold at all. I don't want any letters flying.
Look, what? I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm bringing the placard anyway on Tuesday to the game.
I just think, obviously, as the women's game grows, it's really important that the voices around it, pundits and everything like that, are people who've been big supporters of the women's game the whole time. That's just my opinion. That's just my truth. I think the pundits should be big advocates for the women's team, especially when you're looking at maybe coming in under the umbrella of a male club at a time and stuff like that. I think pundits should have all been people who are really getting behind all of those initiatives.
As we said, Eileen was going to have the last word. So there is the last word. All that's left to say now is adios.
Adios.
Adios.